Get the turkey ready. Hi, I'm Mark, and this is a not real review of the Scion FRS. I said I wasn't going to do it because there's about 600 million reviews of the Scion FRS available, and I'm not really going to add anything to the mix. However, I've gotten a lot of emails and comments, blah, blah, about talking about the car. So I'm going to talk about it, drive it, etc. So you may be wondering why I'm wearing a hat. Well, let's just cut to the chase. I'm wearing a hat for two reasons. One, my hair is a mess, and two, I'm balding, so I look cooler this way. So the Scion FRS, let's get to it. And this is a Hyundai Veloster. I bought it. I wanted a daily driver that was somewhat more fun to drive, good efficiency, and had a unique style and look to it. Mission accomplished, okay? However, I want to talk about something that I haven't seen in reviews, and that the Hyundai went about building a car that's totally different than the FRS. They did things exactly the opposite. Hyundai spent all their money on this car with exterior sheet metal, design, aesthetics, interior, feature set, and it's a looker because of it, whether you like it or not. There's a lot of lines, there's a lot of sheet metal, wheels. Take a look at the interior quality is way beyond the price range. And the features are, including the audio system. Now, what Hyundai didn't put their money into was chassis design, suspension, balance. Any of that stuff was not where their money went. So that brings me to the point of the FRS, or FT86, or BRZ GT86, whatever the fuck they decide to call this thing. I, like most, was titillated by the 17,000 concepts that we saw over 2 years. I just wanted the goddamn thing to be released. However, they did. They showed us the production version, and my point with the Hyundai was Toyota and Subaru did the exact opposite. They didn't put their money in the exterior because it doesn't look anything like the concept. In fact, I think a lot of the styling was totally neutered, and according to them was to save cost. The interior is a glorified Fisher-Price toy. The interior is just as low rent as you could possibly imagine. It really turned me off when I first drove it. It took me a second test drive months later to really realize that this car is completely designed for the Star Trek of automotive enthusiasts. Yes, that's correct. I'm not a Star Trek fan, but the hardcore auto enthusiast is basically like a Trekkie, and that's what this car appeals to. If you're not an automotive enthusiast like that, this is going to make little sense. There's just no way around it. Unless you love cars, you're not going to like driving this thing. You're not going to like anything about it, in fact. Nobody's going to spend $26,000 on a car that's basically what everybody wanted in 1997. This car was what every automotive enthusiast wanted in the late 90s and never got. Well, here it is. And I didn't think I'd be buying one after that long, but I guess some desires are left unfulfilled. Some people, it's Twinkies. Other, it's having every ethnicity of woman. For me, I never got a rear-wheel drive fun sports car in the 90s, and here it is. So let's get on to some other points. One of the things that's a first impression about this car is you get into it, it's low. That may be good or bad depending on how you see it, but it's a low center of gravity car. And that doesn't matter to anybody probably, again, until you sit in this thing and drive it. The only thing I can compare it to, it's like a cross between, it's a more comfortable S2000, similar to an RX-8, more comfortable than an MX-5, but it still retains the elements of like a Lotus, Elise, Exige. It's a mishmash of all those. But I'll have to say, aside from the RX-8, this is by far the most comfortable car of its type. All right, so I'm not going to bore you with all the cars I've owned, but needless to say, there's something about this car, it's just more fun than the other sports cars I've owned. And I think there's an element to it, because it's so cheap, I don't worry about it. To me, it's just a fun to drive, beat the fuck out of it type of car. And I really like that. I like not having to worry. I don't have to worry about where I park it. It's a $25,000 car. Who gives a shit? Do I worry about breaking it? Actually, I do, because right now you can't get parts for this fucking thing. The head unit that was supposed to come with the car when I bought it, they said that there's such a shortage on parts for this thing, they couldn't even get the head units in. Now, I mean, you can read online and you'll always get the horror stories on it, but I've talked to 3 or 4 different parts managers in big dealerships. They can't even get simple shit for this car. So, I know it's a new car, and every new car goes through these type of pains, but, you know, if you're thinking about getting this car and you're going to go hog wild with it, you want to track day it, you better be prepared. If you're going to bang it up, you're going to be waiting a while for parts. Even the people with mechanical issues, getting simple things, at least in like 2 weeks, have been waiting. So you're not going to get overnight parts for this thing. If it's going to be down, it's going to be down for a little bit. Now, is that going to last a long time? I don't know. It's up to Toyota and Subaru how they're going to do the parts. But it's just something to consider, especially as a daily right now. All right, let's get into the basics of just the way the car handles on the road and feels on the road. And I'm going to make the comparison to the Hyundai Veloster again, because they're totally opposite concepts. That car, you have a high ride height, high center of gravity. So that means that they're going to have to do a lot more work with suspension tuning to control body roll. What does that mean? The higher ride height means that they had to use high spring rates and aggressively valved shocks. So the ride is extremely firm and actually is total horseshit once you get on bad pavement. I mean, that car crashes over bumps like you wouldn't believe. Now, on perfect pavement, it handles really well. The steering feels really good, but as soon as you get it on bad pavement, any type of like aggressive driving, it doesn't get traction. It can't keep the power down, and the whole car feels juddery. So get into this car, it's the exact opposite. Because they designed the chassis right, there's a low center of gravity. They didn't have to go nuts with the shocks and spring combo. It's really comfortable on pretty much any road. Now, it's actually shockingly good for this type of car. Now, in terms of interior noise and all the other horse shit, it's like any other economy car. It's what you would expect from, a compact Corolla, Civic, anything like that. I would say it's on par with. So, but a compact car doesn't do that. I'll just put it that way. So, anyway, back to my point about the way the car drives. It's extremely enjoyable to drive, and I would have to put it at the top of my list for cars I have fun with and just enjoy driving. Now, will that last? Probably not. I'm back in my Toyota, except it's a Toyota Prius. Oh, why is my seat back so far? I don't know. It's so you can see me. Why am I in this car when I love the FRS so much to buy it? Well, I'll tell you. The FRS is broken. What's wrong with it? Well, something that only affects 5 to 10% of them, according to many dealerships and customer service. Yes, it doesn't happen to a lot of them, I guess, but it happened to mine. Apparently, the engine computer that controls the variable valve timing, cam sprocket, is programmed inadequately, or who knows, but the engine computer needs to be replaced. And maybe the VVTi cam gear. Who knows? They don't really know. They just said it's going to be a month or two until you get the computer in. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Till then, I'm going to drive this bad boy. I also have my Hyundai Molester to drive, but I much rather prefer to drive an elegant, well thought out piece of Toyota engineering. Like the turn in, it turns in, and then the tires roll over themselves just to get you through that turn comfortably. The gauge cluster, which you can't see and you don't care to see, is just so intuitive. There's all this stuff going on up there. I can know everything. I can know so much in a small amount of space, I can't even read it. And there's this nifty little gauge cluster where I could store a small midget down here. For what? I don't know. But I could put a midget in there. Or a little baby giraffe. Whatever it is, this car provides me everything that the FRS didn't. Reliable transportation.